Your Excellency, Mr. President, all our distinguished guests, all protocols duly observed. My name is Chris Kiagiri, employee number 2, Google Kenya, here to take you on a brief journey down memory lane to tell us where this 15-year-old came from that we are celebrating here this evening. Now, in 2004, an American startup called Google launched Gmail. In 2005, that same startup, 7 years old, launched Google Maps. 2006, that same startup, now 8 years old, acquired a company called YouTube. But there was a problem, because these products, while they were taking off, were not universally accessible and useful. How many of you remember a time when Kenya was not connected to the rest of the world by undersea fiber cable? Connections were via satellite, they were slow, they were expensive. Our CEO at the time, Eric Schmidt, realized that if Google took its usual approach in expanding into new countries, it would be more than a decade before Google had a presence in sub-Saharan Africa. And that was not acceptable for him. So he commissioned a group of Googlers, which is what we call ourselves, from California to travel across this continent to various capital cities to meet with various stakeholders in academia, in government, in industry, and to come and report back on the landscape and what opportunities existed for Google to come and make a meaningful impact in accelerating access to the internet. That group came back to California. I was working there at the time. I attended the talk where they presented their findings, and there were two key things that stood out. Number one, there was an opportunity, because Nairobi was on the East Coast without submarine fiber cable, to install proxy servers that would cache or store local copies of heavy content like YouTube videos or Google Maps imagery, so that anyone in Kenya who accessed that content for the first time, they would go over satellite, but every other person in Kenya trying to access the same content would be served a local copy, which would be much faster. The other opportunity was to work with universities to strengthen their network infrastructure so that they could deploy Gmail along with Google Apps, which is now known as Google Workspace. In May of 2007, Google Kenya was incorporated. And it would not have happened when it happened were it not for Googler 001, Joseph Musheru, who is here with us tonight. Joe, we are so thankful. We are indebted to you. Indebted to you for the blood, sweat, and tears that you poured into establishing Google, not just in Kenya, but in Africa. And allow me to extend an invitation to you. We have a newly renovated office. You're welcome to come visit. We understand as of today, your calendar has opened up a little bit. So, karibu sana. I joined Joe here 2 months later. That's me in the server room. We needed to establish a persistent VPN over that satellite connection in order to connect to our corporate network and do video calls. An amazing technical achievement at that time. We hired a Maps team, fresh out of JKUAT and University of Nairobi, to come and start building Google Maps for Kenya. You can see there's a couple of members who are still with us today. Even our driver, Godfrey, who was there back then, is still with us today. Thank you very much. The next year, we hired Isis Nyongo as our first business development manager. She's here with us. Thank you very much, Isis. This accelerated our partnerships. We signed a partnership with Wonderman Kenya, the first advertising agency deal, shortly after she joined. We signed a partnership with Access Kenya to deploy those proxy machines that I was describing. And then we went back a year later to California to report on how things were going. Our CEO gave us the go-ahead to double the number of teams in Kenya and to use Kenya as a base to onboard country leads from other African countries so that we could expand beyond Kenya. Now, I am going to drastically cut down the level of my storytelling because in July 2008, we launched the Google Africa blog. And all of our highlights, all of our stories since then are still there. They're online. You're welcome to browse and learn more about our history. We also had a lot of fun along the way. 7 years before Joe joined government, here he is. He was writing to the office of the president, requesting the late President Kibaki at the time to come and launch Kogelo on Google Maps during the run-up to President Obama's inauguration. So all of you remember that period. We launched Google Maps, finally, in 2009. A few months later, we launched Street View, which was a big achievement. The New York Times covered our early work in those days, and at the time I was quoted as saying, it would be simplistic to think that we are here to replicate what Google has done elsewhere. We would like to be true to our mission, which is to organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful, but we want to do it locally in a way that is relevant and useful here. And so we went back after our second year and secured the go-ahead, again from our CEO, to build solutions. Some of you might recognize these. They don't exist today. We're not afraid to fail. We innovate, we try, we are bold. Google Baraza was a message board where you could post a question and the community could answer. Google Trader was a marketplace where you could buy and sell goods. The key to these products is that they worked with SMS. So you could, if you are online, you could go online. If you are not online, you could text to a short code, ask a question to Baraza, post something for sale on Trader, and you could do SMS search. If you're a farmer, you could get agricultural tips. Anybody could get health tips. So those were our SMS-based integrations. Moving ahead, in 2011, we partnered with Michael Murungi, one of our MCs here. At the time, he was with the National Council of Law Reporting, which he proceeded to become the CEO of. And we digitized over 100 years worth of the Kenya Gazette, placed them online for free on Google Books. And then we did the same a few months later with the National Assembly Hansards, dating back to before independence. And these are still available online for free. Now, 2010, 2011 was an important moment in our history. This is when we placed our first big bet on low-cost Android smartphones. The graph you see here comparing Kenya and Nigeria is what happened when Safaricom launched their first low-cost Android device, the Ideos. Some of you remember it. And this is the number of people who were searching on Google from a mobile phone. That's how much it went up, and it kept going up, and it has never looked back. The smartphone era was well underway, and we partnered with Equity Bank to launch Beba Pay. Your Excellency, we were graced by your presence. You are 4 weeks into your first term as Deputy President, and now 6 weeks into your term as President, here you are with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. 2017, we spun off a company called C Squared from Google Kenya, which is headquartered here in Nairobi, creating jobs and advancing the mission of connecting more and more people online. 2015, we know YouTube man, Julius Yego. He became the world champion of javelin, and he credited YouTube for helping him learn how to throw the javelin. And 4 years later, the world stopped and watched Eliud Kipchoge on YouTube as he became the first human to break the 2-hour marathon barrier. We partnered with Safaricom to make this free so that even if you didn't have data bundles, you are able to watch history in the making. And you can see, we don't have the number here, but over 7 million viewers were able to watch history. Over the years, we've had fun with the Google Doodle on the homepage, not just on holidays like Jamhuri Day, but celebrating key figures and key themes in our country's history. We see Wangari Maathai here and the environment, Kimani Maruge and education. We also see Marjorie Oludhe just last week and literature. We've enjoyed great support from Googlers over the last 15 years. And as I look back on our mission, those 3 logos that I started with, desktop logos, have been replaced by 3 logos that need no words. We all know Gmail. I won't ask how many of you have Gmail accounts. I know it's many of you. I know many of you, even this week, have told people, Tuma PIN, so that I can use Google Maps to navigate anywhere in the country. And we all go to YouTube for education, for news, for entertainment. Final slide, we've enjoyed great support from our leadership. Our CEO visited us in Nairobi in 2013 and took a picture with the team. What does our current CEO think about Kenya and our future? We have our leaders with us here today, led by our country director, Agnes. Perhaps she'll tell us. Thank you for your attention.